Stranger Things 5 is about to get crazy dark. From Max being the show's secret weapon to Vecna just being a warm-up for something much bigger. Here are the most sinister theories. The world of Hawkins has existed in a state of fragile tension ever since 1983, when a boy disappeared without a trace and reality began to quietly unravel. The cracks started small at first. A gate inside a laboratory, a girl with no hair and powers that defied explanation, rumors of something lurking beneath the surface. Those cracks grew wider with each passing season, and now as Season 5 approaches, many fans believe the endgame won't just be another fight. It's total destruction. One of the bleakest theories out there imagines a world where Hawkins doesn't just collapse, it transforms into something completely unrecognizable and sinister. In this scenario, the Upside Down stops being a separate dimension that heroes can simply seal away. Instead, it bleeds through entirely, fusing with the real world until no boundary remains. The air becomes thick and motionless. Streets flicker back and forth between normal and rotting. Trees contort into skeletal shapes, and shadows crawl across walls like living veins. Everything familiar turns alien, and Hawkins becomes a permanent manifestation of that nightmare realm. There's no escaping it, because this is simply what reality has become. This isn't just fans getting carried away with dramatic ideas. The theory has roots in Season 4's final moments, when the rift tore across Hawkins, filling the sky with red storm clouds and the unmistakable decay of the Upside Down. Vecna's speech to Eleven wasn't just about settling scores. He was talking about reshaping reality. He described a future where the human world gets gutted and reconstructed in his image, a place infested with monsters and governed by something ancient. Season 5 might not be about shutting the gate anymore. It might be about surviving in a world where the gate already won. In this theory, Hawkins becomes ground zero for a global disaster. The Shadow Monster, which everyone assumed was Vecna's creation, turns out to be something completely different. A parasite older than Henry Creel, older than the lab, older even than the gates themselves. In this reading, Vecna wasn't the true villain. He was just the messenger. The Shadow Monster had been contained, held back, or somehow limited by Vecna's control. And when Vecna falls, that restraint breaks. The storm expands. The tendrils that once crawled through a single town explode outward, consuming fear and flesh wherever they go across the whole world. What started as a small-town mystery becomes a global horror story. Other fans believe this is where Eleven's story ends. Not with an emotional victory, but with a final, desperate attempt to stop something too massive to contain before it consumes everything. Her powers, which came from the same source that opened the gates, might be the only force strong enough to break the connection between worlds. But if her power is the key, then she might also be the sacrifice. The theory suggests that Eleven's death isn't just a noble act, but the only possible way to close the loop permanently. A world overtaken by the Upside Down leaves no space for her to exist. The final shot, according to these fans, isn't the group celebrating. It's heartbreaking silence, red skies, and a town that's been completely swallowed. This apocalyptic vision casts a heavy shadow over everything else. It recontextualizes the entire series. Every disappearance, every vision, every battle wasn't about preventing the inevitable, just postponing it. And now time has run out. But beneath this looming disaster sits another theory, more specific but just as horrifying. It starts with a straightforward question. What if Vecna was never the real final boss? Vecna has been the main villain in everyone's minds for a while now. Season 4 revealed his true face, unpacked his backstory, and showed his transformation from Henry Creel into the monster who reshaped the Upside Down. But some fans think his apparent dominance is a trick. In Dungeons & Dragons lore, Vecna is dangerous, but not the ultimate threat. There are beings older, stronger, and far more malicious. One of them is Boris, a psionic dragon capable of bending reality itself, a figure that makes Vecna look small by comparison. And when Will Byers drew a warrior battling a three-headed red dragon in Season 4, it wasn't just a throwaway moment, it was a clue. The theory works like this. Vecna has always been the most obvious threat, the face everyone associates with the Upside Down's intentions. But maybe his existence is only the surface of something far more ancient. Just as the Mind Flayer ended up being a larger presence tied to him, there could be an even deeper force above them both. Maybe Vecna was an intruder, someone who seized control of the Upside Down's hive mind without fully grasping what he was tapping into. Or maybe he was selected, shaped by something invisible, a human vessel built to prepare the way for that entity's emergence. Either way, Season 5 could show that the real enemy isn't the creature we've been watching. It's the thing that's been watching him from the shadows all along. This older force would explain why the Upside Down appears frozen in time, stuck on the day Will disappeared. It's not just Vecna's doing, but the suspended state of something older, waiting for the right host to wake it up. When Vecna collapsed at the end of Season 4, he didn't die, he pulled back. Maybe to heal, maybe to step aside. His monologue about reshaping the world wasn't just ego talking, it was foreshadowing. The entity behind him would rise, and Will Byers might be the doorway it uses. The idea is extremely unsettling. If Vecna isn't the endgame villain, then everything the characters have learned about fighting him becomes useless. All their strategies could prove meaningless. And if this deeper force has a connection to Will's mind, as some suspect, then defeating it might require confronting not just a creature, but the foundations of their own shared history. In this version of Season 5, killing Vecna doesn't bring relief. It just opens the cage. And maybe that cage was already opened years ago, slowly, without anyone realizing it. If the apocalypse is the destination, Will Byers might be its engine. One of the most disturbing theories doesn't just put him at the center of everything. It suggests he stopped really being Will the night he vanished. In this story, Vecna didn't just kidnap Will in 1983. He replaced him. The Will who came back to Hawkins was a convincing fake, a puppet wearing the right skin. Every emotional beat since then, the trembling confessions, the quiet vulnerability, the desperate attempts to stay connected to his friends, might not have been Will at all. They belonged to Henry Creel, buried beneath layers of memory like a parasite under the skin. This theory isn't necessarily baseless speculation, no matter how wild it sounds. It stems from several hints scattered throughout the show. Will's psychic link to the Upside Down didn't disappear after his rescue. He could still sense the Mind Flayer in Season 2, shivering whenever its presence came near. His drawings often revealed information he couldn't consciously know at the time. And when Vecna emerged in Season 4, Will didn't just detect him. The hairs on his neck stood up in exactly the same way they had years before, as if the two were synchronized on some deeper frequency. Fans argue this wasn't residual trauma, but proof of a shared identity, which will be revealed in a dark and heartbreaking scene. Henry Creel had abilities from birth. His powers didn't come from experiments, they came from somewhere inside him. When he encountered the Upside Down, he found a place that mirrored his mind's darkness. What if, when Will fell into that world, Henry saw something else? A vessel. Someone isolated, emotionally raw, sensitive, and easy to overlook. The perfect shell. According to this theory, Vecna didn't just possess Will temporarily. He buried Will's consciousness and moved in for himself, quietly observing through Will's eyes while the group went about their lives. The implications of this idea are brutal. It would mean that for almost a decade, the group has been unknowingly sharing everything with their enemy. It would mean that every time Will seemed fragile, he was actually hiding something else entirely. And it would explain how Vecna has been able to strike so precisely without physically entering Hawkins until late in the story. He never needed to cross over because part of him was already there. Another version of this theory takes it even further. Maybe the Will who returned isn't Vecna himself, but a kind of copy, an empty vessel molded by Henry, a duplicate created in the Upside Down and sent back in his place. This clone Will concept draws on the eerie stillness of the Upside Down on the day he vanished. If time froze at that exact moment, maybe it's because that was when the original Will stopped existing as the world knew him. Everything after has been the story of the copy living his life, slowly deteriorating as Henry's influence grows stronger. This connects naturally to another equally disturbing theory, that Will didn't just get trapped in the Upside Down, he created it. Fans have pointed out for years that the Upside Down isn't some random alien dimension. It's Hawkins, frozen at a specific point in time. The walls, the streets, even Joyce's house are all there in unsettling detail. In the minds of the fans who proposed this theory, when Will entered that realm, his traumatized mind unconsciously projected his surroundings into it as a way to stay alive. The Upside Down became a psychic reflection of Hawkins because Will's brain needed something familiar to hold on to. That would make him not just a victim of the Upside Down, but its creator. Every building, every stopped clock, every echo of reality might have originated in Will's subconscious, later taken over by Vecna. In psychological terms, it transforms the entire show into a battle not just against monsters, but against a landscape built from one boy's terror. This theory gains more weight when you look at how the Upside Down responds to certain triggers. Lights flicker in Joyce's house when Will tries to communicate, as if the world itself bends to his feelings. The Mind Flayer marks him, links with him, and uses him as a conduit to affect events in the real world. It's less like Will is stuck in the Upside Down and more like the Upside Down is an extension of his mind that's been infected by something else. If this is accurate, the final season won't just be about taking down Vecna. It will be about facing Will's own subconscious, a realm shaped by his memories but corrupted by another presence. The gang wouldn't be entering enemy territory, they'd be entering Will himself. Put these two theories together and you get a grim picture. The Will they know might be a mask, and the world they've been fighting might be his mind turned outward and twisted. If Season 5 goes this route, the real challenge isn't saving Hawkins. It's saving the boy they thought they'd already saved. And if his mind is the battlefield, the final enemy might look exactly like him. That brings us to one of the most chilling possibilities, that Will doesn't stay a silent conduit. He becomes the villain himself. This isn't just a simple possession storyline, it's the payoff of years of careful setup. From the moment Will was taken, his path mirrored Henry Creel's. Both were lonely boys with quiet intensity. Both were drawn to something bigger than themselves. Both came back from the upside down fundamentally changed. Henry embraced it. Will survived it. But surviving isn't the same as getting away clean. Throughout the series, Will described the presence inside him in terms that go beyond simple fear. He talked about it as a constant, cold force that never completely left. Season 4 reminded viewers of that connection in the simplest possible way, as the hairs on the back of his neck rising in perfect sync with Vecna's survival. It didn't feel like a warning. It felt like recognition. According to this theory, Vecna's endgame was never to stay in control himself. He was preparing Will as a vessel, planting something inside him years ago that would eventually wake up. With his body shattered and his power dispersed, Vecna could let that seed grow inside Will until it blooms, not as a separate entity controlling him from outside, but as the force moving through him directly. The three-headed dragon Will painted is a major clue. In Dungeons & Dragons, it represents power that dwarfs Vecna. Fans think Will didn't choose this image on purpose. It came from somewhere deep inside, possibly drawn by the presence already coiled within him. The three heads might symbolize a fusion: Vecna, the primordial force beneath him, and Will himself combining into something entirely new. In this scenario, the final villain isn't Vecna returning in his old form. It's Will transformed into the vessel for something that surpasses him. This would bring the entire narrative full circle in the darkest possible way. The boy who disappeared becomes the monster everyone else has to face. Eleven, who once rescued him, would be forced into the impossible position of stopping him to save everyone else. Every shared memory, every fragile moment of friendship would be twisted and used against them by the thing wearing Will's face. It wouldn't be a betrayal made by choice. It's a fate that's been building since the very first episode. That might sound extreme, but there's another character who might already be functioning as a bridge between worlds. Season 4 ended with Max alive in the most technical sense, but her mind completely gone. Most people assume she's just trapped or unconscious, but a darker theory suggests Vecna didn't just attack her, he used her as an anchor. When her bones shattered and her mind broke apart, it wasn't just violence, it was a ritual. By breaking her at the exact moment the rifts opened, Vecna created a living connection point between Hawkins and the Upside Down. Max's mind isn't just missing, it's tied to Vecna's domain, acting as the wedge that keeps the gate propped open. According to this theory, Max isn't just a victim waiting for rescue. She's essential to Vecna's continued existence. Her consciousness holds the rift open, making sure that even if others try to seal it, the barrier stays weakened. Saving her might be the only way to completely cut Vecna's connection, but pulling her out could also release whatever is waiting on the other side. If her mind is tangled with Vecna's, extracting her might risk letting him, or something worse, come through. This is where all these theories start to merge. Will's mind might hold the blueprint for the Upside Down. Max's mind might be what's keeping the door open. Vecna might have been just the opening act, a herald for something older, hungrier, and infinitely more dangerous. Hawkins might already be past the point of saving, its fate locked in by forces that have been quietly growing since that first disappearance in 1983. The apocalypse might not arrive as one catastrophic moment. It might come through two kids who were there from the very beginning, bound to darkness in ways nobody fully grasped. Will Byers, the quiet boy who was lost, might return not as someone saved, but as the vessel through which the final evil breaks through. Max Mayfield, the girl who once fought off Vecna's curse, might become the anchor that lets that evil pour through permanently, and somewhere beneath Hawkins' cracked surface, something older than Vecna might be waiting for the right moment to show itself. The theories might be speculation, but if even part of them proves true, Stranger Things 5 won't just be a fight for a town, it will be the collapse of a world. So, these have been the darkest theories that might come true in Season 5. Which one do you think is most likely? Do you have a more sinister idea? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more Stranger Things content and theories, click the video on screen now.